Let's start the stream and see how we go. All right, I just want to hear myself, make sure I'm coming in nice and loud. Oh, there we go. Perfect. I can hear myself, which is great. All right. And that's that. Let's just pop this off. I have to muck around with these tabs, that's for sure. Okay. All right, what is happening here? What is happening here? Give me a moment. All right, that's fine. That is fine. That is fine. Okay. So we've got that one up and running. Next thing is I need to, what do I need to do now? Blue sky. That's right. So going live. Using AI Automators, and we'll chuck that in. Drupal AI. Okay, I think that is it. And last but not least, where is OBS? There we go. It is right there. And I'll pop in OBS so I can see it. And I need to turn on the recording as well. Give me a moment. No, not that screen, the other screen, and select the right microphone. Always select the wrong one. And we can move that over there. Let's start recording. Okay, I think we are good to go. All right. Make sure everything's working. Yes, it is. All right, sweet. Switch over to the main feed. Switch over to that feed. And we're going to have a fun night tonight, all about AI. AI, people, that's what people want, right? Artificial intelligence. All right. Cool. All right, let's get started. Get right to the top there. And everything's, yeah, let me just make sure. Close that off. All right, cool. So just before we begin, I just need to do a quick ad. Sorry about that. You can skip ahead. I do have a premium community over at webwash.net/premium, where at this point, I've got a bunch of these live streams that are slowly going up and being edited for premium consumption, so 0 ads. But I've tried something different. This live stream that I'm gonna do today, I've actually recorded. Well, I recorded a version of it this morning, so I'll see which one ends up being better. This is still me. This is all live. It's not a recording, but I did 2 versions. So a practice session and I'll see which one ends up being good. So if you want to support the channel, I've got a lifetime deal for now, which is 99 euros, gives you lifetime access. I've got a whole bunch of plans with this. Once I get more people, there's also a private community, but one thing I do want to look at is potentially doing builds where we build a Drupal site from scratch. And then if you're part of the premium community, you get the whole setup, like pretty much a starter kit. And I do have a working prototype of a Next.js site in Bootstrap that I want to build. And it's working. Anyway, if you want to support the channel, head over to webwash.net/premium. All right, so we might as well then get into it. That is the ads, or maybe I'll chuck in an ad at the end. But anyway, and I'll also promote other free videos, and all the current and future live streams will be free over at WebWash. Okay. All right, so let's get into it. Okay. Artificial intelligence. Now, it is everywhere these days. Honestly, it is. You cannot go online on any type of the social medias and avoid artificial intelligence. It was meant to make our jobs obsolete 6 months ago. Well, no, a year ago, one of the CEOs of one of the AI companies said, in 6 months, we will all be out of a job. But we're still here. I'm still building websites. I'm still building Drupal sites, and I'm still talking about Drupal. One day AI will replace me. Fair enough. But right now, Drupal is having a bit of a renaissance, I think. Well, Drupal's always been great, don't get me wrong. I've always been a fan of Drupal, but I do think that the push for Drupal AI is pretty important for Drupal's future. Now, just last week, I believe, there was a DrupalCon Vienna, and for the Dries Note keynote, and that's Dries Buytaert, who is the founder of the Drupal project, always has a keynote. And he mentioned that we need to head into the storm of this AI. We don't know what's going to happen, but Drupal is poised to really benefit from it, which I totally agree. So there is this AI initiative. And if you want to learn more about the project, just head over to drupal.org/project/AI or just Google Drupal AI. And this module is a suite of modules essentially. And you do have a lot of modules in it, such as AI Core, Explorer, Automators, Search, Assistant, CKEditor, Content, and so on and so forth. And then you also have a bunch of providers that you can integrate with, and you also have then other modules that use Drupal AI and extend it. Now, I've covered how to use Drupal AI in general, but that was for the previous version of the module. Okay. And so if we scroll down, where is it? Scroll down. That was for version 1.1. I do need to update that one because now it's version 1.2. So it is a little different. So for this stream, I want to focus on just one module, and that is AI Automators, because AI Automators is where you can do a lot of stuff. Now, a lot of people do talk about AI agents, and don't get me wrong, AI agents are great, but they're pretty complex to set up. But I think AI automators, they're pretty easy to set up once you just get a bit of understanding with them. So that's what I want to focus on today. Now, what is an AI automator? Well, an automator is just a bit of, essentially, it's a prompt which is attached to a to a field in Drupal. So when that field gets updated or inserted, the prompt will be run. So you could do things such as set up a automator on a summary field, which uses the title of the article as context. And you can write a little prompt to say, can you generate a summary using the context below? And then just goes ahead, goes to all of your, one of your LLMs, comes back, and it gets saved. That is a very basic example. Now, I want to show you a few examples tonight. I want to show you how to convert audio into text and how to use CKEditor, buttons with these automators, and also how to do chained automators as well. So we have a lot to cover. So again, if you want to learn more about this, head over to drupal.org/project/AI. And here I've got my Drupal CMS site. I am using Drupal CMS because it comes with an AI assistant recipe, and it just makes it much easier and quicker to set things up. So we're going to be using Drupal CMS, but you do all of this on a vanilla Drupal core website. I believe that's what it's called, Drupal core. Okay. So to start things off, click on extend, and let's go to recommended, and we should see here AI Assistant. Go ahead and install it. Now, of course, we need to add in a key. So let me just pop this out, and I'll move this to the other screen because I don't want people to take my keys. And I, anyway, do rotate the keys, so you won't see it all. There we go. And I'll give that a moment, and hopefully the API stays online. There's nothing more nerve-wracking than doing a live demo with dodgy API endpoints. All right. So all we've done now is we have installed the recipe, and the AI assistant recipe has gone ahead and installed all the modules and configured things. And now all we need to do is refresh, because that's the interesting thing, okay? When you install these recipes, it does it all through Ajax. And it doesn't actually update the UI because you need to essentially refresh it. All right. Now, the other thing we need to do is also clear the cache, because I do know we're missing one extra button here. So let's jump back over here and type in ddev drush cr. And let's refresh, and there we go. And now we have this nice little assistant. Now, this is new in Drupal AI 1.2. 1.1 had a little chat thingy down on the bottom right, I believe, but this time it is a little different. All right, well, finally got some comments. Okay, all right, was going to ask, how can we set this stuff up in core? Well, the best way is to just look at the recipe. So set it up in Drupal CMS, and then just, yeah, set up. I mean, the assistant, when it comes to setting it up, the assistant does a lot of these like basic configurations, but if you want to just get into it, just go ahead and have a look and see what the recipe installs. And what you can do is, if we jump over into the code and go to recipes, Drupal AI, if you want to have a bit of fun with this, you can kind of see all the modules that are getting installed, and you can see which configuration, yeah, you can see the basic configuration is being set here. But maybe I can cover how to do it in the future. And we also have a hello from Brazil again. Well, hello, hello, hello. Where is it? I will make sure I do a little comment in there. Hi. And as usual, I get a message from Kik telling me, do I want more viewers? As usual, I block them. Okay. All right, so we have, let's jump back over here. And we know that we've set things up because we have this little assistant. Now, if we click on this little assistant, we get a little message box right here. And what we can do is just type in what's up, if I can spell that correctly. And hopefully everything is working. And yes, it is. Feel free. And because I've already tested this stuff out today, you will get a little cookie thing where you need to accept the cookie. Unfortunately, it's not showing up here. I should have cleared the cache so you can see it. But you will see a little thing pop up which says you need to accept the cookies. And I do recommend that you do that. Now, if you do want to modify things, what you can do is go to configuration. Let's go to configuration here. And I'll close that. So where was that again? Sorry, configuration. And if you scroll down all the way, you should see AI right here. Oh, let me close this one as well. All right, you should see AI. And then from here, you can set the default settings. So this is if you want to run multiple providers. So you can run Claude, well, you can run OpenAI, Anthropic, any providers that are supported. And then you can select a different model. So for example, if you want to use the text to speech, if you have different providers, you can select them from here, and then you can select a different model. The default is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the default, but you will see the ability to change the providers and models in a whole bunch of places. And if you want to come ahead and do that, you can do that. If you need to change the key, another important thing, here is the key to changing the key. There you go, bit of a pun. So coming to system and then keys, and Drupal AI uses the key module. So that is a standard way of just managing keys in Drupal. And right now it is stored in the database locally for like a test site. That is fine. But on production, I highly recommend that you set up the keys as an environment variable at the server level and never store them in the database. And you can configure keys in Drupal with the key module to pull it from an environment variable. And that way you can just rotate your keys and it's not stored in the database. Because trust me, you might get a new agency that's maintaining your website. They pull down your database and then they have access to all of your keys. And then if you click on edit, you will get a little step, which is a great little confirmation to say, be extremely careful, because if I click on edit, it will show the actual key. So that's how you can modify the keys. All right, so now that we have everything working, let's go ahead and create a basic automator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to extend. Now, I will just mention that with this assistant button, you'll notice that it does kind of change. I don't know what it is, if it's some type of JavaScript, but I notice that when this assistant button is on, when I hover over these links, it doesn't quite, something's up with the style and the hover state. And you have to kind of hover over on this side. Yeah, I don't know. Just be aware of that, honestly. All right, got another comment. Aha, that's awesome. All right, got another comment saying finally able to watch them. Thank you very much. All right, cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and click on extend recommended. And what I'll do is I'll install the events content type, well, the recipe, sorry, because that's what I want. And once that is installed, we're going to go ahead and install the required modules. So let's go to list and I'll search for AI Automators and CKEditor integration. The AI CKEditor integration. And click on install. All right. So now we have a content type called event. And essentially what I want to do, okay, I want to set up two automators actually. Two. And what we're going to do is when we create an event, we're going to enter in a title. And the automator will automatically generate a description for us. So it'll add a description right here into the description field, and it's going to generate tags for us based off the title. So if I add a title in such as how to set up Drupal on Google Cloud and AWS, that will be the title, and it'll kind of start the process and generate a description for us and the tags, okay? So to do that, first we'll just take off the required field option on description because we need to save the form. So let's go to structure, content types, and let's go to event. And let's go on to the actual description field because that's where we want to add our automator, and let's remove required. And then right down at the bottom, you will see enable AI Automator. If you can't see that, make sure you install the module essentially, okay? If you can't see it. Then you have your automator types. Now, this list, automatically determines which automator is available based on the field type. So if you look at the code, and I highly recommend you do, because it's a very enlightening process because you can actually see all the plugins that are available. And I spent a fair bit of time looking at it and just getting an understanding of it. And there is a bunch of attributes and also a few methods that do control which automator type is available depending on certain conditions. And one of the things is the field type. So let's select LLM text because that's the type of data we're dealing with. And then you have your input mode. Okay. Base mode just means that we're going to use the title as the context. So it's just going to pass it through. And then here you can see we have a few options. Context plays a huge part in AI. Okay. That is one thing I've learned. Yes, the prompts are important, but having context, giving the AI example data is very, very important. I know that from personally doing a lot of content the last few years. So, but if we scroll up, we do have the ability to pass in tokens. But let's just stick with the simple stuff. So what we're going to do is make sure you select title because that's the context we want to use. And I'm not going to bore you by typing out a prompt. I'm sure I'll be typing something out. But here is the prompt which I created earlier. Generate a 200 character SEO description, blah, 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 using the following context. And then we just pass the context across. Okay. And that is it. And then if we scroll down, click on advanced, you do have workers. So this is how it's actually applied. Direct just means that it will run when you save the form. But if you do have long processes, it can time out. Then you do have a queue and cron, you need to run cron, and then you have batch, which isn't recommended, which does it through the batch queue. Then you do have some extra options depending on the automator type. You do have this option where it's edits when changed. So by default, what's going to happen is if the field is empty, it's going to run the automator. As soon as there is a value in a field, then it's not going to run it. So you can put in just something manually yourself if you don't want AI to generate it, which is fine. But then if this automator is run and then it saves it in the value, and then saves the value in the field, I'll finally get that out, then it won't run again. But if you wanted to run every single time you edit, then have this checked, but you shouldn't have it checked unless you know what you're doing. All right, so that's been configured. And now what we want to do is set it on the tag. So we need to jump over to the tags field and scroll down, enable it, and then we will select taxonomy. Now notice how the list is different here. And that is because we are on a taxonomy, an entity reference field technically. And you want to select base mode and make sure you select title. I often forget because it defaults to revision log and then you're wondering why it's not working. And I did use this actual placeholder. It'll be good if you could copy out this placeholder. And what I've got here is I've got this one right here. And I've got a basic prompt, which is based on the context given, generate 3 or 5 tags with the context. And everything else should be the same. Make sure it's direct. Sometimes you may want to adjust the weight of an automator, especially if an automator depends on another one. So just be aware of that. And everything looks pretty good. And click on Save Settings. All right. Now let's test everything out. Now comes the fun part. Let's hope OpenAI is not having problems tonight. All right, so everything's been configured. Let's go to Content, add Content, Event, and I will use a speech to text, which is hosting a Drupal site on AWS and Google Cloud. All right. It throws in this blank audio, hosting a Drupal site on AWS and Google Cloud. All right, cool. So this is the event. Let's set a date and time to be next Friday at 20. It's pretty much like one of my live streams. There you go. And so it's the 31st of October at 8:30. Description is empty. Tags is empty. Now, if we click on save and we go back, we should see a description and tags field. And we can tell if things are working because the response takes a few seconds. If it happens instantly, then you know it's not working, but you can see that it's taken a bit of time. And you can straight away see that the tags have been added, which is great. And if we go and edit, we can't see description because it's used for SEO. Go in there, we have a description. There you go. So as you can see, it has generated a description for us and a bunch of tags. And the good thing is you can go ahead and make your changes and save it. And you saw how quickly it saved. And that's the benefit of just having it inserted once. You can now go ahead and make whatever change you want and save it, and that is fine. If, however, you're like, actually, let's remove everything and let's have it generate again, simply remove the text, save it, and then if you go back in, it's going to generate another bunch of text for you. And there you go. So that is a very, very basic, the most basic setup when it comes to AI automators. Let's now take one thing, let's now take things to the next level. And let's set up a workflow where we get the audio transcribed into text. So we upload an audio file and we do that through a media type. So what we're going to do is let's go to structure, media types, and Drupal CMS doesn't actually have a media type for audio. So we can go ahead and create one. And let's call this one audio used for audio files. And we'll select the media source to be audio file, and you want to create it. And it's automatically going to create a file field for us. Click and save and manage. Okay. So at this point, we have our basic audio media type. This is just standard Drupal 101. And if you want to learn more about, here we go, I'm selling other live streams. If you want to learn more about media handling in Drupal and Drupal CMS, check out a bunch of live streams. I do have a bunch of live streams over on the YouTube channel where you can learn more about just media handling in Drupal. So if you do want to learn more about it, head over there. So we've created our media type. Let's go in and create a field because we need to store the transcript somewhere. So click on, we'll click on plain long, because it's going to be a lot. We'll call this one just transcript and click on continue. And if we scroll all the way down and click on AI Automator, what we're going to do is select audio to text. Very important, audio to text. And we can only select base mode. And then audio file is just going to be audio file because that's the only other field on it. And that is it. And that is it. All the magic happens in this audio to text. And if you go to advanced, you have a few other options there, but let's just leave everything as it is. Oh, you can change a few options here. So instead of changing the default settings in the configuration section, if you just want to change the provider for this automator, you can do so from here. And you can also add in extra prompts as well. And you can also adjust the temperature. But we'll just leave the default settings and we'll click on save. Okay, so we've got all of that. And now if we go to our media page, click on add media, audio, I'll call this one, well, let me grab the MP3 file. So this one is a post promo summary. So it's me promoting something. And this is the display errors post promo. And if I click on save, it's going to use the Whisper 1 model to transcribe it. And it should save it right in here. There you go. Now, this is pretty accurate. This is pretty accurate. I've used Whisper a fair bit in the past, and it picks up pretty much everything. It picks up my funny accent, first of all, which is tops. The other thing is that it knows the word Drupal and Drush, which is good. The only thing that it does kind of struggle on is things like here, web profiler. I do know web profiler is 2 words and it's in camel case, but it's no, sorry, it's as 1 word in camel case. But other than that, it does a brilliant job, honestly. And this will actually be very useful for a few things that I'm doing where I can just drop a video in and it could probably transcribe the audio from it. But straight away, you have a transcript and that's it. It was an automator. All you had to configure, yeah, was the automator, and that's it. And it's gone ahead and generated a transcript for us. And now you've got it. And that was pretty easy to set up. All right. So we have looked at how to set up automators on a content type and a media type. Now I want to show you how to use them in CKEditor because the ability to add them to CKEditor is pretty cool. What you can do is essentially create your own custom button. And so what we're going to do is if we go to content, I want to create an automator where I can come here to CKEditor, have a drop down and have a button which says generate full details. So the event description. And I do have a pretty big prompt that I'm going to use that I actually use for a bunch of my live streams where it just generates it. And on top of that, I want 2 versions. I want a standard size version, and then I want a version which is less than 300 characters, because I think Blue Sky only allows up to 300 characters on whenever you post something. And we're going to use AI Automators to set that up. Okay, so what we need to do is let's go over to configuration and we need to go to automators. And let's click on automator change settings and let's add one. And this one's going to be called generate full details. And let's click on save. And if we go in there and edit, we can see up the top here, we can see manage fields, manage form display, and manage display. Now, this is just an entity type, and that's it. So all we need to do is create a bunch of very specific fields. So if we come to manage fields and click on create a new field, we first need to add in an input field. So I'll create one called input, and I'll make sure that it is a text plain long, because then the module uses that as our actual chat field, essentially, where we can put in our input. And the other thing you need to be aware of is that it needs to be set to required. Let's create another field. And this time we'll select text formatted long, and it needs to be a text formatted long when it's passed to CKEditor. And this one's called output. So then this is where some of the logic happens most of the time. But then if you have multiple automators, you will separate that out into separate fields. And let's just save that, okay? All right. Now the input field, we just leave, okay? We don't have to set anything up in this case. The output field, if we scroll all the way down and click on enable automator, what we have to do is select text, and we want to select input as our base because that is the context we're going to use. Then we need to grab a big prompt. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I'll just grab that. Give me a moment. And I'll paste this one in. And you can see here that the input at the bottom, we have the context, and you can see the available context right here. But most importantly, I've got like 4 examples of what I want it to look like. And these are actual real world examples. And that's what I meant, where context plays a massive part. Having access to data and being able to pass that to your prompts is very important. And that's where I think Drupal can really shine. If all your data is already in Drupal, Well, you could easily set up a prompt and set up a few custom tokens and pass in some test data, some actual real data to your prompts. And you can then tell it to style things like this. And then here I've got the actual prompt, and then I've got examples, and I'll pass that through. And then if we scroll down, you want to make sure that you select direct, and everything should be configured. Okay. So now that we've got that set up, we need to now add it to CKEditor. So what I'll do is I'll go to configuration, text formats and editors, and click on configure. And if we scroll down, there is this AI CKEditor button. I do think there's an issue with the icon, but anyway, just grab that, make sure you add that one and move it across. And you should see AI tools right here. There are a whole bunch of other ones. Maybe I'll cover that in a separate video, but I did cover that in the first getting started with Drupal AI, and I don't think it's changed that much, so you can easily follow that live stream and I'll show you how to do things with that. All right, so here we have the AI Automators CKEditor. Now, this is a little buggy because when you enable it and refresh, it kind of loses its place, and you'll see what I mean. If I click on enable, it's going to throw me back to the top. But just be aware of that. And if it really annoys you, well, then fix it up and submit it as an issue. All right, let's just quickly set this up. All right, so what we're essentially doing is enabling it, and then we have our full details here. We are then enabling our generate full details, and then we need to configure a few things. So first of all, we need to define what is used as our input. Now, this is a little confusing because it says inputs and then input. This is the input field that we created, and you need to make sure that it is set as required. If you don't see it here, that means you haven't set it as required. So go back to AI Automators and set it as required. So let's do that. Then everything else should stay the same. For us, the output is the output. The module automatically figures this out because the output is a text formatted long, and the write mode is just replace, which means just chuck it into the editor, and that's it. Okay? And if we scroll all the way down, click on, I always forget that in Drupal CMS, it's in the top right, but in normal Gin, it's down at the bottom. Sorry. All right, that's all saved. And now if we go back to our event, we have this nice little Automator button right here, AI Assistant button. And if we click on that, we get a nice little pop-up right here, and we have our input and we have our output. And all we need to do, what I'll do is let me grab this, and I will generate a prompt, which is, can you generate an event description using the following title? And I will paste that, and I will also keep that just so that I don't have to say that 20 times tonight. Okay. And if we click on generate, it's going to go ahead and run the automator on the output. And hopefully, if everything is set up and working, we have a prompt. Sorry, we have a response right here. And you can see that it is pretty, I do know it is pretty much the same style as my live streams. And you want to make sure here, actually read this, because AI is great at hallucinating. I'm sure everyone who's used AI knows that. And sometimes it might look like it's working, but when you actually pay attention to it, you're like, why is it talking about that? But you can see here that it is specifically bringing up AWS and Google Cloud. And when you are testing things out, I do recommend that you put in specific keywords that you want to make sure that those keywords are getting passed through. So you know that the AI isn't fooling around or screwing you around, to put it bluntly. And that's it, okay? So at this point, we have our full details, and we can click on Save Changes to Editor, and we're done. There you go. We're good to go. Let's publish our event, and we have our event description. How simple was that? Okay, simple. let's go back to edit. As I mentioned, we want to generate the full details, but now I want to generate a summarized version of it. Because always when I prepare my live streams, I have an event description that goes out to all of the socials. So what is it? LinkedIn, Twitch, Kick, YouTube. That's about it. I think, yeah, those ones. I'm sure I'm missing one. Oh, and X as well, or Twitter. But then I do have a shorter description as well. And to set that up, what we can do is go ahead and create pretty much a very similar automator. So let's go back and create another one. And this one will be called Generate Summary. Let me put that in. I like to do uppercase so I can actually, so it stands out. Generate Summary. And let's click on that. Okay. And let's go to Manage Fields. And let's reuse the input and output because we can. Because pretty much every automator needs an input and output. But let's take things one step further and let's make the length configurable. Because yes, I did say I want it to be less than 300 characters. But what happens if you want it to be 100? What happens if you want it to be 250 sometimes? And what we can do is let's put in another field. And this will be a text plain, and we'll call this one length. And we'll make it required. And we'll click on save. And let's just, I don't think the order matters, but I just like to adjust the orders. Why not? And what we can do is now jump over to Manage Fields and then go Outputs. And go all the way down. Again, just enable AI Automator, select text, and you will notice that you do the similar stuff over and over again. But this time, we need context from both the input and the length. So in this case, what we need to do is select Advanced Mode. So you may notice that we no longer have placeholders. So how do we get the actual values from those fields? Well, we use tokens. And most importantly, if I bring this up, you will see that we do have an automated chain. And that is the entity that we're on. And you can see that we do have our fields right here. Hopefully you can see that in the stream. Oh, probably not. But I don't want to zoom it in too much. Oh, maybe I'll just zoom it in more than just this once. There we go. You can see here we have the input and we have the length. So what I can do is I can grab my prompt, which I did prepare earlier. Let me grab that and I'll chuck it in right here. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm just, again, using just writing a custom prompt to rewrite it. And I've given it the event description, which is going to be passed in through the input. And then I just say, output it and utilize paragraphs and also add a few hashtags and wrap it with a block quote. Believe it or not, it's actually a bit annoyingly difficult to get AI to output things in a very specific way. Seriously, it is. Sometimes it just outputs it in a weird way. It's like, no, output it this way. All right, so if we go down to advanced, again, just make sure direct is set up. And that is it. Let's make sure input is required. And now let's go to our text formats and editors, and we need to do the same thing. And let's go to Automators, Summary, and let's select input as the input. We don't have to select length. I do believe length just appears, but we're going to change things a little differently. So what we're going to do is we are going to select the existing full text in the editor. And we're going to use that. So we don't have to type out or manually copy things. So that's why we're going to select input as the text selection input. It's going to be required. And what it's going to do is instead of replace, we're going to put prepend. And let's just make sure everything is okay. Oh, and enable it, of course. So enabled, import, selection, required, prepend, output. All right, done. Hit save. And now if we come along in here and refresh, we should see summary, which is great. So now all we need to do is select this and go summary. And you can see that it has been added here, and we can put in a length. Let's just close it up. I'm not sure why it's a big one, but anyway, let's set it to say 200. No, I'll set it, no, 250, okay? And click on generate. And what it's going to do, it's going to pass the input and length to the automator, and then the automator then goes off and does its thing. And we come back here, it's going to add the input back in, and then it's going to prepend the summary below it. So we can then just click on Save Changes to Editor, and we haven't lost what we have already written, and that's it. You can see here, it's added it to a block quote, and it's added that in. And we click on Save, and we have a nice little summary. So you could do things, you could create a automator that just generates quotes or something. I don't know, whatever you want. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do. Now, using these two automators separately is a bit annoying because it's a two-step process. Now what I want to show you is how to set up one automator to do both. Why not? Because, you know, when you think about it, it's like, why do things two times when you can just do it once? So let's go ahead and create a third automator. Oh, we're going to be creating many automators tonight, don't you worry. And what we're going to do is let's go back here. Let's go to chain settings. And this one's going to be generates full plus summary details. And we have all of that set up. And what we need to do is generate, well, let's put in, again, the input. Let's add that in. The output. And we need to generate a full, I'll just copy this so I don't have to type it in. We need to create a text formatted long for our full details. So let's go ahead and do that. And essentially we're doing the output settings this time. Let's go ahead and I will grab the epic prompt. Where is that? Where is that? Where is that? Give me a moment. And what I want to do is if we scroll down, enable it, set it to text, base mode, that's correct. And then we set it to input. And let's put in our epic prompt. And we're done, okay? And of course, make sure it's set to direct, which is default anyway. That's the first one. Now we need to create another one for summary. So do not go to reuse, click on create new field. And this one is called formatted long. Scroll down. And let me just grab the prompt for that. All right. And this time select base mode and generate full details. That's what we're going to use as the base. So whatever is generated from the full details will then get passed. So this prompt, we're going to tweak a little bit and we're going to remove the length. So let me set it to say 200 and I'm going to just use context here. Let me grab this and we're just going to use that as the event description. So you can kind of see that we're now stacking things. We have the input, which is then used to generate the full details. Then we have the, what is it? Then we have the summary, which is using the full details. And then finally, the output is going to use both full details and summary to then generate the output. So that's all been set up. Perfect. And finally, we can come along in here, click on output, scroll down, and click on text. And let's grab this. And this will be tokens. Well, where's the top up? Up the top here, tokens. And you want to make sure that these values match up. So generate full details. Of course, you want this stuff to generate full details and generate summary details where they match up right there. And that is it. And if we go to AI Automator run order, you want to make sure that this is configured correctly. So first, the full is using the input as the source. Then summary is using the full details. And then the output is using full and summary. And you want to adjust the order if you need to, but in this case, it's working perfectly. All right, so we have a comment. All right. Are you thinking of creating a case that triggers an automator with an endpoint? Well, that you'll need to write probably custom code for it unless there's already integration for it. But you can just write a plugin for it, essentially. So no, I'm not going to be covering any of that stuff today. Well, technically they all hit endpoints, technically. The speech to text one sends the file to the automator. But when you say endpoint, what are you referring to? Like a JSON endpoint or just like a search endpoint or using SERP API, which is like the search engine? Yeah, there are a few things. At the end of the day, you can write your own custom code to do pretty much whatever you want. Of course, that's with anything. But yeah, I won't be covering that exactly right here tonight. All right, so we have set all of this stuff up. Now let's enable it and test it out. Let's go back into text formats and editors. And finally, we can jump over to AI tools, CKEditor, and we have this full one right here. Let's enable it. And let's select import. I do believe everything is pretty much the same except for, of course, output. And yep, yeah, that looks all good. Good. And we do need to make one change. We need to move the horizontal line because the horizontal line, if the button's not there, then because we are using this limit allowed HTML, it's going to be allowed now. So let's go ahead and save it. All right, the comment is yes, referring to an API call. Yeah, I mean, there's a few ways. Again, it depends how you want to process that API call. So if you want to pull in data, let's say you want to scrape a bit of data. Well, not scrape, but just get a bit of data from like a JSON endpoint, and then use that in your response. You could create a plugin for that. And if you do go to, let me show you quickly. In here, AI, where is it? Automators, source, plugins. Then you do have automator types. No, I think it's this one. Yeah. So you have all of these, and you can see that you do have a lot here. You have speech generation. Where is it? audio or audio to string, audio to text. There are some pretty cool ones. The video to HTML is pretty cool. It actually uses FFmpeg locally, and I was testing that stuff out. Video to image. So what you could essentially do is come along in here and then just write your own plugin to pull in that information. And that's probably what I will do. And the good thing is that you could easily just extend one of these ones, these existing ones, and then just slightly modify it. The other option is to use probably ECA. But that's the thing. It's like, I feel like now with Drupal AI, there seems to be multiple ways of doing similar things, just like, well, in Drupal as well. But you can do it through, say, an automator. Automator gets you probably 80, 90% there. But if you want to customize, really customize things, then you could look at using ECA and then integrating that with your field. But then if you reach a limit with that, then you can always write custom code. And I do think that that's what we are as developers going to have to think about. It's like, okay, you want to integrate with this endpoint, you want to integrate with that endpoint, and so on and so forth. And that's where the tricky part comes in. It's like, well, how do you pull in all this information? But no, that is a great question. Thanks for that. All right. So now we've set everything up. Let's now test it all out. I always love testing things out. All right. So let's go ahead. Where's my prompt? Let me just get my prompt so I don't have to bore you all with my talking. Okay. Let's remove this. So essentially, I want all of this generated in one go. Come along in here. We have full summary plus, no, generate full plus summary. Paste in this thing and let's see what happens. It's going to go ahead and generate, and it's running 2 automated, and more technically 3 times. And just give it a moment, and there you go. You can see the horizontal lines being put in, and it's just generated for us. And we click on Save Changes to Editor and save, and we're done. There you go. This live stream's ready to go. And you can see just how easy that is to set up. Now, just before we jump on to other things, I want to show you how you can see these logs, because this is all great when things are working. But what happens when things aren't working? What happens if you're getting a funny response and you don't know exactly what context is getting passed and you want to figure out, well, why is it like that? Why isn't it like that? Why is it working? Is it working correctly? Isn't it working correctly? So let's go to Extend and search for AI logging and just install this module. And then what we can do is let's go to AI. You should see logging, and then go to settings, and we need to enable both log requests and log responses. And if we come along in here, click on AI logs, we see nothing because we haven't logged anything. So if we go back to our event, and again, let's just do the same thing. Come along in here, summary, I'll paste this in and click on generate. And essentially it will be 3 requests, because it's one for the full, one for the summary, and one for the output. So give that a moment. It's going to go ahead, do its thing, throw it in there. Yes, everything's looking good. Click on Save Changes, and we're done. And now if we come along in here, we can see our 3 requests. If we scroll across and click on View, you can see that this is the first one. You can see that a lot has been passed in here, and often you want to make sure that you can't see the context or the actual context variable, which says just context, all the tokens. You want to see them actually rendered. And that means, oh, sorry, where is it? It's this one. And that means that it's actually generated. And you can see all of these other tags. And, you know, this is pretty fascinating on exactly like what's happening in the back end. And most importantly for me, as somebody that has to pay for these tokens, I always like to look at tokens and see how much how many tokens were spent. So that is that one. And you can kind of see exactly what was sent. And then if you scroll down, the next one should be the summary, which is correct. And finally, the last one is the full, well, is all of it. And then it's just added and returned as the output. And that's it. So if you are having some hallucination issues, then make sure you enable AI logging to see exactly what is happening. All right, so before we finish up, let's just do a bit more site building because I'm not done yet. Because what I want in my Epic live stream setup, I want the ability now to generate social media posts based off the events. Because what I do, I don't know if people have noticed, but what I like to do is for every single live stream that goes out, I like to do 1 or 2 social media posts beforehand and 1 or 2 social media posts after when things have happened, like a pre-show and a pre-promo and then a post-promo. So like pre-show promo and a post-show promo. And, let's just automate it because why not, And so what I want to do is I want to be able to come to an event and then up the top here, have a little tab which says social posts and then go ahead and create a few social posts. Now, what we're going to do is let's go and create a content type and a few fields. So the content type will be, so let's do that. Can you please create a new content type called social post? Okay, that's it. Now I wanted to reuse the content field. Can you reuse and attach the field underscore content field and create an entity reference field with the machine name of field underscore parent and target the event content type? All right, you want to be very specific here and create an entity reference with the machine name field and target the event. All right, let's see if this works. I'll just copy this because sometimes when you give it a bit too much information, it kind of loses it. All right, let's see what happens. Is it going to ask for confirmation? Let's see. All right, it's contacting agents. Now it's using the agent stuff. This is all out of the box with the AI assistant in Drupal CMS. You wouldn't get this if you just install this on a vanilla Drupal site or Drupal core. All right, let's see what happens. Let's go here. I want to see the logs as well. I always love to see the logs. All right. Oof, there's a lot happening here. There's a lot. Generic to provider. Anyway, let's go back here. What? Still going, still thinking. Okay. Why is there no scrolling there? Oh my. Well, for some reason, there's no scrolling. Bit of a styling thing. Wait, let me just double check that. Anyway. All right, so I can kind of see things have been created. All right, fair enough. I'll give you that. Now, if we go to structure, content types, we have social post, which is great. And it did not attach the content field, annoyingly. Okay, that's fine. I'll do that myself. And we hit save. All right, done and dusted. And now if we check out the logs, let's check out the logs and see. Wait, which one is the one? You can see it sent a few requests. So AI assistant. So what is it? It's that one. I'll open these up in tabs because I'm curious to see. It's always fascinating to look under the hood. You can see here, yep. All right, you're going to configure Drupal site. and then extra data. Ooh, it's a massive prompt. And then we've got the next one. Tool bundle. So it sends all that information. Then he sends all the fields, more fields, and then extra information. Oh my, how many tokens is that? 9,000 tokens. Interesting. Okay. Does it again. Another 8,000 tokens. Well, you could go through your tokens pretty quickly. Where's this one? Another 6,000 tokens. Okay. So yeah, tokens for everyone. Tokens. All right. Anyway. All right. Where was I? All right. Cool. Okay. So we have our content type here. And if we click on content, add content, social media post, we should be able to select our event. Perfect. But what I want to do is I will just throw in a view. Now I'm not going to create the view because I didn't want to waste time. So I'll just import this view in. Hopefully, well, no, I do need to install one module. I know that. Where is it? Bundle. Oh, add content by bundle. Okay, that's already there. All right, so what I'm going to do, just to save a bit of time, let me go to scripts. I'm going to do this the old-fashioned way. Because believe it or not, this is the good thing about config. You can just chuck it in. And then click on import. Yep. And now it's going to simply create a view that gives us, if we go here, up the top here, will give us social posts, and then we can just go ahead and we have a list of social posts that are attached to this event. Very important. Now, we could also put in functionality to auto-populate this parent event, but we're not going to bother with that for now. But essentially what I want it to do is I want it to go and grab the description and event date from the parent event and just populate like a social media post in here. And that's it. Okay. So to do all of that, let's go. Let me close this. I'll open up a new tab. Social posts. And we're going to click on content and scroll down. Select text. And the import needs to be advanced because what we need to do is we need to, let me zoom in nice and tight so I can see this. We need to go and find, well, we need to find the parent field. Where is it? Parent, where are you? Here we go, right here. Content. And then you'll see, I hope you can see in the video, you have node field underscore parent entity, and then you have access to all the fields on the parent. So the one that we want is content, field content, and also event field event date. Okay. Now, of course, I've prepared a prompt earlier. I'm not going to waste everyone's time. And here it is. And you can see that, yep, the task is generate a social media post to promote an event. You'll be given an event description and title, event description and date and time, and output it in this way. Okay. And you want to make sure everything is perfect here. Yes, it is. And we're done. Okay. So we've done all of that. And now what we can do is come along in here. We can select, or we have to select a host, and I'll put in social post 1. Then if we save, you should go ahead, go to the parent, grab the details, and then just generate a social media post for us. And there you go. It always puts an emoji up the front. I don't know why. And most importantly for me is like, is this date and time correct? So 31st, Friday, 31st of October. It is. Oh, look at that. That is good. That is good. Okay. So as you can see, it's very easy using tokens to then grab context from other referenced um, content. But to actually generate this, we had to save the form. Let's fix it up and let's set it up so that we can use a thing called Field Widget Actions, which gives us a button here below the editor and it'll just automatically populate these details for us. And that's it. So what we need to do is go to Extend and search for action, because I know it's somewhere here, Field Widget Actions, there we go. And this is part of the Drupal AI module, it's just a submodule, and click on Install. So give that a moment. And then if we go back into Content, Social Posts, let's edit our field content, and this time you will see another worker. Select Field Widget and click on Save Settings. And then what you need to do is go to Manage Form Display and find the field, which is right here. Click on the cogwheel and you should see Field Widget Settings right here. And then you can select your action, you can enable it, and then select your actual automator. Now, playing around with these field widget actions, they may or may not, if you do have some type of custom widget, it may not work. It only really works on the common widgets. So just be aware of that. That's one thing I've noticed. Okay. So once that's all configured, click on Save. And now what we can do is come back in here. Well, let's actually go ahead and create another one. So the good thing is we can go to our parent event. We can go to social posts. We can see all the social posts here. Let's create another one. We'll call this one social post 2. And you could do things such as having a drop down and, where you specify your social media posts, and then where from a drop down you can have LinkedIn, Facebook, X, whatever you want, and then adjust your prompt and say in your prompt, if this option is selected, adjust it to be more businessy, because LinkedIn's all business stuff. If it's on X, I don't know, chuck in some other stuff in there. So you can do a lot of stuff. Then here, okay, you've got this Automator text suggestion. Now this label can be changed. So I think if we go in here, here we go. Oh, generate post. Click on update, click on save. Let's refresh. And there you go. It's got generate post right there. And I'll call this one social post 2. And the good thing is we can put in an event, but we don't have to save it. At first I thought, do we need to save it? Because technically this field isn't populated, but no. If we click on generate post, it's going to go ahead and generate it for us. And it's going to pull in the title. Look at that. Look at that. That is so cool. And if you do actually not select anything there, I think just the token comes through. Oh no, it's going to hallucinate. Yeah, see, you would often read this and be like, oh yeah, it's working, but it's not. It's hallucinating. But then straight away you can see that yes, the token's getting passed. If you're seeing the tokens, then something is definitely wrong, and it is not getting passed. So just be aware of that. Now, one thing I do also want to mention is if you are going to use these tokens, if you are going to use these field widget collections and you want to use it on a taxonomy, let's go here. It won't work, as far as I'm aware, it won't work on this Tagify widget. You need to switch it over to use the autocomplete tags style. So if we were to set it up, let me just quickly do that. Let's go here, event, fields. And let's switch this over to Field Widget. And if we go to Field Widget right here, and then go to tags, right? You can't see stuff here, okay? That's what I was mentioning. The reason for that is because it's only supported on certain widgets. So what you need to do is cancel that, select autocomplete tag styles. Then if you go back in, you should see auto widgets actions, and then you should see the Automator taxonomy. You can add that in, and then you can select this one and then say generate tags, enable it, click on save. And now if we come along in here, we should see a button, but then we have a different widget. If we save it, it shouldn't save it. Well, it shouldn't save the tag, sorry, that's correct. Come along in here, click on generate. It's going to use the title and generate it in there. So just be aware that the field widget action is only going to work on popular widgets. And you can see just how quick and easy that was to set up. So there you have it. If you want to add some automation goodness to your Drupal site, take a look at AI Automators, because I posted this stuff up, what was it, yesterday or today, and one of the main guys in the Drupal AI initiative actually mentioned that everyone focuses on the AI agents, which is right, but this AI Automators is actually pretty powerful as well. And for me, the AI Automators, in my opinion, is easier to get set up and going because the concept is very simple. You just chuck a prompt in there, add a bit of context, and you're done. If you look at the AI agents, there's a lot of complexities involved in setting it up. But of course, the AI agents do help you to do a lot of stuff. One thing I would absolutely love, and this is something I need to look at and I need to kind of figure out how to build essentially, is being able to have buttons up the top here where it's like, I don't know, where I can say generate kind of like a set of social media posts, and I can configure exactly what that set is. And then it just automatically generates it for me. Like that is one thing I'm kind of aiming for. I'm kind of aiming for one big thing where I just chuck in a prompt and it just generates everything for me. And I'm just slowly figuring out the best way to kind of stitch it all together. But this stuff's working pretty well. It's working pretty well. So anyway, that is it from me. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more about Drupal, head over to webwash.net. And also don't forget the videos on the YouTube channel. And yeah, if you have any questions, please leave a comment, or I will be sticking around for a bit. So thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all next time. All right, cool. Yeah. Interesting to see automators in action. Yeah, it is pretty good to see. It is pretty good to see. Some of the automator stuff is pretty full on. Where was it? The one that I was looking at yesterday. Yeah, this one. This one's pretty cool. This one's the experimental. It's image to HTML. And you need FFmpeg setup. But essentially what it does, it will go, where is it? Is it here? No, I think it's here. It actually it first of all converts, yeah, it grabs the image, sorry, no, the video, uses FFmpeg to then generate a audio file, strips out the audio. So you need an FFmpeg setup, strips out the audio, transcribes it. Then it generates images from the video. So it kind of captures frames, which is pretty cool. Then it kind of puts it all together and then generates, and then can even grab the frames and add it into the HTML. And so you get kind of like a blog post. But the images aren't managed by Drupal. That's one thing I noticed. No, but that is pretty cool. All right, thanks for that. I haven't been able to join live for a while, but always enjoy it. Learn a lot. Thanks. Oh, no, thanks a lot. Ah, good question. So Drupal is way ahead in WordPress in the AI ecosystem. I don't I haven't really kept tabs on the WordPress one. That's an interesting question because believe it or not, I do have a few WordPress sites and that actually have content on them. And I was kind of researching that. There is what is it? WordPress content AI. There was one of them. No. Where is it? Formerly content. I don't know. No, it's got similar things. Let me just chuck this in. So we do have, well, there's ads. There's this one. This is now a live stream on WordPress and AI. No, but chances are this isn't free. Is there a premium version, or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I haven't looked at this stuff. It is pretty interesting. But I was even thinking that there are a few libraries now coming out for like PHP libraries that are framework agnostic. They can use them on anything's on like any frameworks that you could potentially use, even in Drupal. But I do think at this point, yes, Drupal does have the edge when it comes to the AI stuff. But it's moving so quickly, and just the industry is moving very quickly. So it was kind of funny. It's like I did a video. No, so Drupal AI 1.0 came out. Then after chatting to a few people, they're like, wait till 1.1 comes out, then do a video on that. So I did a getting started with Drupal AI for 1.1. Then 1.2 comes out, and it's got all of this stuff. So it's very different. And so now there's version 2 is in the works. And apparently I saw today with our AI automators, because one limitation with the AI automator is that you can only have one automation per field, which is a limitation. Because what if you want to actually have multiple? Because you can imagine, I'm on where is it, the description. Let's just imagine we're on a much larger field and we want to generate a summary from somewhere else, and then we do a bit more processing on that. There's a lot of use cases where you want to run multiple automators on the one field. Drupal AI version 2 will have that. So I will probably do this video again in the next 6 months, but that's all right. That's why I wanted to really do a specific video tonight just on this thing, because now that I've got like a run sheet on how I can do these live streams, it's easy for me just to do them again. It's not that hard. But yeah, things are moving pretty quickly. Things are moving pretty quickly. And I was talking to a colleague just this week about all of this stuff, and they're saying that a lot of this agent stuff could essentially become deprecated and replaced with MCP, essentially, in the future. So it's just like, yeah, it's moving a lot. And yeah, you can see that this UI is different than in 1.1. Pretty cool though. It is pretty cool. The tools, our automators, information. So maybe you can HTML to Markdown. See, coming back to the person who asked about API requests. See, you could probably set a custom action that does the API, and then set up an agent. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot involved. There is a ton. All right, so let's just leave it at that. If there's no more. It was fun, fun, fun. Be curious. I need to figure out what I'm going to talk about next week. Oh, it is going to be, yeah, need to figure that out. I wouldn't mind actually playing around with the actual the code part and actually implement this stuff through code, because yes, you can do a lot through the backend, but I feel like sometimes you may just want to write some code and just get into it yourself and be able to pass things and run a lot of these automators just through code and with HTMX as well. So you can get a nice little response. I'd wonder how hard it will be to set up like a streaming output. Maybe that needs to be done with PHP, some configuration in PHP. All right, well, let's just leave it at that. Thank you so much. Drupal as a framework has so much more power than Laravel. I don't know. I am a fan of Laravel. I think it's different. It's different. Like, yes, to be fair, Laravel, creating custom models in Laravel is much easier than, say, creating a custom entity in Drupal. And I feel like it's different. It's different. What do I think about Drupal as a framework to build anything you want? Yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I don't think Drupal should be used as a framework for absolutely everything. There are good use cases to use it, but I wouldn't say no to Laravel, because you do get a lot of good things out of the box with Laravel, and I have set up internal tools because I am learning it and playing around with it. I've set up internal tools that I just use, and just being able to set up like a React front end is just so easy with that. What is it, inertia and things like that, and that stuff's pretty good. And also all of the billing stuff you get. There's just a lot of good stuff out of the box, and so I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough one. All right, a suggestion for another time, but I would consider doing a live stream on showing how to use Drupal's own RESTful interface, and you're using Drupal as an endpoint. Yeah, setting up a RESTful. Yeah, that would be fun. Well, let me just show you guys what I'm planning to do. Wait, let me just bring up some code. Always need to bring up some code. Let me bring this up somewhere else. I'll show you what I'm planning to do is. Wait, where is it? I need to find it. So my goal. Oh, here we go. So what I've got here is I've actually got what is it, npm run dev. So this is pretty much a mock, well, it's a real working site. This is a fully working Next.js site, which I've built, and it's using Bootstrap. And the reason why it's using Bootstrap is because Drupal people like Bootstrap. And I do plan to do a Tailwind one eventually. Well, I actually do have a Tailwind example running as well. And so this is a fully built React Next.js front end. And so I've built all of this, and you get up the top here, you get listings. You click into each card. There's also, what is it? Search. There's an About Us page, Contact Us. There's also search with facets. Now, all of this is fake. It's not working. But my goal now is to implement this in a few ways in Drupal. Just so that it's just easy, because now what you can do is you can come along in here and you can just select your markup, and you can just move things and create your components. And this is using the most vanilla version of Bootstrap, but it doesn't look bad actually. It looks pretty cool. And we've got these components here that we're going to build out. We've got these components right here. I've got this little sidebar as well, which I'm pretty happy about. You have some nice little components. And this is all built using Next.js 15. And then my goal is to kind of plug this up to a Drupal site and then actually run this as a proper Drupal site. Right now, it's just hard-coded values, essentially. I believe the data's in here somewhere. Here you go, mock data. It's all just hard-coded values. And so instead of using what is a static components, I believe here it's static props. I'm going to have to use actual dynamic components and then just build it all out. So that's the thing I'm kind of aiming for in the future. The next one as well that I've got is, oh yeah, here we go. So this one is actually using, where is it here? Is this one it? And this one is a Next.js site as well. Yes, it is. Because I'm pretty much converting all this stuff. So I'm going to run dev. And I just noticed that Next.js 16 is out. So this one is actually using, I want to build a replica of a certain YouTube site, a certain video site. So essentially what this is this is going to be a replica of YouTube. And you click on, wait, does this actually work? Yep, that's right. The backend's a bit funny. This is all just test data. And this is using Daisy UI and Tailwind. Come along in here. And yeah, you can see a bit finicky. You have to fix all of this stuff. But this is using, yes, this is using Daisy UI and so Tailwind, because then for Daisy UI, we are going to be using Drupal. What is it? Daisy UI. Yeah, I'm going to be using this. And that is that. So the alpha one. Yeah, the code's not ready for that at this point. So yeah, this is stuff that's coming. I still need to build it out. I mean, believe it or not, you think everyone talks about how AI is like, oh yeah, just a one-shot thing and you can spit it out. It's like, yeah, well, it's still a bit of work involved. So that's kind of my plan. And this stuff is, yeah, I need to review all the components because I feel like the components are a bit messy. I've got to fix them all up. So anyway, that's the plan. So we'll see how things go. But yeah, but you know, when I play around with this stuff, it's like I sometimes think to myself, well, you know, this stuff's pretty cool. It's like, why am I using Drupal again? No, I'm joking. But I actually put in my own videos from WebWash. So it's like, yeah, this actually looks pretty cool. Yeah, it's got a nice little sidebar. I do like this one as well. I added, to make this less bootstrappy, put in a little like sidebar like that. Look at that. Of course, this button makes it bootstrappy, but this looks pretty cool. And this stuff all works, but now I need to plug it all up. And there is what is it? Drupal Next.js. Yeah, this one. You do have this. Yeah, this one. Here we go. This is pretty much what I'm trying to implement, but they have their own like starter kit. I think. I think it's using the Umami. But then there is the what is it? Drupal JSON API. No, npm package. No, Drupal. What is it? Drupal client JSON API. Ah, yeah, this one. There we go. This is it. So this is the actual interaction with Drupal. Yeah, Drupal needs to get on top of this. I think similar to like, well, what is it? The inertia stuff you have um, in like Laravel. It just has to be so easy to set up. All right, cool. All right. Well, let's leave it at that. Everyone have a good evening, and I'll catch you all next week. All right, cheerio. Take care. Oh yeah, and if you have any questions, just yeah, leave them in the comments as well. Thank you.